So if you're not one of the 3% of adults who regularly thinks outside the box, in other words, questions some of the conventional thinking in society, the way society works, or comes up with new ideas on a regular basis, then this video is going to discuss 5 concepts which are definitely thinking outside the box and which will help your stroke survivor to have a better chance of recovery. Hi there, I'm Dr. Kenneth Monaghan. I'm a university lecturer, a neuroplasticity expert, and I'm the author of Lights, Mirrors, Action, a guide for transforming the lives of caregivers and stroke survivors. I'm also hugely passionate about trying to develop a stroke survivor's home as an ideal place for them to carry out their physical rehabilitation after they've had a stroke. So, according to Linda Radestadt, in her fantastic TEDx talk, Linda of the Brain and Spine Rehab, 97% of adults regularly do not think outside the box. So they do not challenge the existing ways that society is run. They do not challenge or come up with ideas to try and change the way that society is run. And the reasons for this are probably very obvious, that most people don't like to challenge in case they're left looking like fools, or there's a fear that, what other people might think of them if they're coming up with new ideas. And of course, the problem here for your stroke survivor is that unless we develop some method and some way for them to carry out their rehabilitation so that they can carry out the 3 hours of therapy on a daily basis that's recommended by the Irish and the UK and the American Stroke Associations, we're going to have a difficulty, or they're going to find it very difficult to try and get the best recovery that they can. So a number of different concepts have been discussed in my book, Lights, Mirrors, Action, which, if they're understood by your stroke survivor, will definitely give them a better chance of success. So the first one seems very obvious, and it's that your home is definitely a brilliant place to carry out your stroke rehabilitation. In chapter 4 of Lights, Mirrors, Actions, we describe numerous advantages that the person has when they're in their own home. So the sights, the sounds, the smells, the familiarity with people who are coming in and out, all lead to a stroke survivor producing a much better chemical environment in their bodies to allow them to have the best chance of neuroplasticity occurring. Second concept, which we've spoken about, and chapter 6 of Lights, Mirrors, Actions talks about this, is the idea that our brains act like a pharmacy. And so we create an environment in our bodies, and we create chemicals, and we create the physiology in our bodies based on what our brains think and what our beliefs are. So we described the famous milkshake experiment, where students who thought that they were having a very high-calorie milkshake compared to students who thought they were having a very low-calorie milkshake, the students with the high one produced 3 times less of a hunger hormone in their bodies afterwards compared to the students who thought they had a low calorie. And of course, the only reasonable explanation for this is that the brain produced the environment, they produced less hunger hormone based on what the students thought. And knowing this is very important for your stroke survivor, because if they have an expectation fact, or they know what therapies they're going to be undertaking, and they have a belief that they will work for them, then they should get and they will receive a better outcome from those therapies. And it's important as a caregiver that you educate your stroke survivors about this. The third concept is that the better educated about neuroplasticity somebody is, and the better and the more information that your stroke survivor and you as a caregiver have about the different therapies that are safe to carry out, the better the result will be. And we see this in a very, very, very fantastic book from David Robson called The Expectation Effect, where when we expect positive things to happen, they generally do. And when we expect negative things to happen, our bodies change in response to that. So that very simple line, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're usually correct. And that really applies in life and society. The fourth message is that repetitions, trying to do lots of repetitions during these 3 daily hours of therapy is really, really important. So that mantra of the 10,000 hours rule principle for trying to be an expert in life that Malcolm Gladwell discusses in his book Outliers, if we apply that to rehabilitation or to physical rehabilitation, then our our mantra of 10,000 repetitions for success or recovery is probably the equivalent. So every repetition of arm movement, every repetition of steps, every repetition of muscle strengthening, all of those give a stroke survivor the best chance of success. And again, explain this to your stroke survivor as a caregiver. And finally, the idea that if we can see progress happening, we will be much more motivated to keep going. So in Leitzmer's action in chapter 9, we discuss a number of very simple ways to measure progress, because if you can see progress happening in front of you, then it's much easier to keep yourself motivated to keep going. So these are the 5 concepts that to me are very much like thinking outside of the box. And it's important that as a caregiver, you explain these to your stroke survivor, and it gives them the best chance to be motivated to carry out the therapy they're going to need in their own homes. So thank you very much for listening. If you'd like to get some more information and some more resources, then please visit my website, which is www.lightsmirrorsaction.com. And there you'll find extra resources, extra videos, extra PDF documents, extra worksheets. Thank you very much for listening again.